It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the day. And who better to deliver it than the man at the helm of India's largest public sector bank. He leads an institution so significant that when they say they are banking on you, they really mean it.
Please welcome Mr. Dinesh Khara, former Chairman of State Bank of India, where your money is as safe as the secrets we all keep from our families. He has been at the forefront of driving innovation in banking and finance, and we are truly privileged to have him with us today. Sir, can we please have you on the stage? And guys, please feel free to post your experiences by using hashtag IvyCap Day 2024. And put on your smiles, we have a lot of virtual attendees watching you, okay?
Thank you very much. My sincere thanks to IvyCap for giving me this opportunity. Very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to IvyCap, this is something which I always felt quite excited while engaging with Mr. Gupta in all my interactions. There were reasons because while leading a large organization, we always run the challenge of how to innovate, how to improve. And here, in all my interactions, there was always something to learn. So that is something which always excited me, and I always used to look for the opportunity when I can have a chance to interact with him. Well, of course, when it comes to, there's an very old adage, which essentially says, necessity is the mother of invention. Growth has always been brought about by the disruption that is challenging the status quo. To give an example, we all agree that the invention of the steam engine was a pivotal moment in the history that significantly accelerated the growth and the transformation. Before its introduction, industries relied heavily on manual labor, animals, water, and wind power, which were often unreliable and limited to capacity. The steam engine invention marked the beginning of a new era of technological advancement and economic development. To share an anecdote, everyone is aware that James Watt as the inventor of the steam engine. But is anyone aware of the Matthew Boulton? It was only after entering into a specific partnership with Matthew Boulton that Watt was able to bring his ideas to fruition. In his book, The Most Powerful Idea in the World, A Story of Steam Industry and Invention by William Rosen, it states, if James Watt was the primus inter pares on the supply side of the steam economy, Matthew Boulton was unquestionably the man best equipped to introduce him to those willing to pay. Hence, to be a really commercial venture, it should read that behind every such invention, there lies the supporters and the investors who always feel that there is a need for disruption and the status quo needs to be challenged. The esteemed Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter coined the term creative destruction way back in 1940 to describe the way technological progress improves the lives of many, but only at the expense of a smaller few. Creative destruction occurred during the Industrial Revolution when the machinery and improvement to the manufacturing processes, such as assembly line, pushed out the craft and the artisan production. But would this be possible without the support of the risk capital? Perhaps no. India has become the third largest startup ecosystem with more than almost about 150,000 startups already recognized and registered with DIPP. And also it is spread across of more than 800 districts in the country. It is not only confining to few major cities, it is spread across the country. With this kind of a growing ecosystem of the startup, there is an avenue for impactful participation in the social causes which enable significantly higher returns. Actually, when we look at the startups, the three main mindsets the VC should have is essentially managing FOMO, the fear of missing out mindset. It is not that what will be the flip side, but what could be the opportunity which can actually make a difference. And this is what we have generally seen. This is the thinking of the startup. And I think we need to encourage this kind of a thinking. A rational investor invariably would like to see the pros and cons and would like to quiz any such startup with all the possible cons, just to see that how strong is their conviction to really ride on the odds. Investment and the partnership mindset, the VC needs to be very clear of the role that they are playing, and also they need to have a very clear conviction and confidence. And it is only that confidence and the conviction which rub off onto the financial investor and who come forward with the money which they put in. As far as the founders and the investors are concerned, backing them requires a huge leap of faith. And that leap of faith essentially has got an origin with the conviction and the confidence of the startup. When it comes to entity like bank, even as I mentioned, that we always have various problem statements and we try to find solutions for those problem statements. And the one such event was, of course, COVID, which actually gave the birth to many of the new vocabularies: work from home, pandemic, oxymorons. These are the words which are never heard of in the past. We heard those words for the first time when we experienced the challenge of COVID. I think perhaps never ever thought of that there could be challenge like this. Even so much so, when it was the DRP mechanisms which we used to think of, we never envisaged that COVID can come out with the risk which were never envisaged. And of course, that was a point of time in order to ensure that the banking services are extended to all. We were required to really embark upon our journey for digitization, and we actually accelerated that journey. We had come out with our app even much before that, but during the COVID, when there were all kind of challenges, we stepped up our effort, and we have now today we see the benefit of that. In fact, there are flip sides both ways. Today morning only I was seeing that one of the leading IT service provider is now ensuring that is trying to get the people back to work. So the concept of work from home has come to a stage where people are not willing to come back to the pre-COVID days. So with that kind of a situation, we have seen that today, with the help of digitization, we at State Bank of India, we have got more than 103 million registered users for YONO, and almost about 92% of the transactions are done in a digital medium. And it has to be seen in the context that when the bank has got more than 22,000 odd branches, and also have got the privilege of almost about 80,000 plus BCCSPs spread across the country. So in that kind of a context, the new digitization is moving towards a very new dimension. And it is not merely confining. In fact, when we introduced YONO, we thought it to be only a transaction banking app, but eventually it turned out to be a 3-in-1, which was pure play banking, financial superstore, and e-commerce. And initially, when we introduced this YONO, we thought it to be only as for the retail banking, but now it has become very significant contributor in terms of making life easier for the business also. And almost about 78% of the import LCs are getting opened through YONO. 90% of the inland LCs are getting opened through YONO. and about 71% of the bank guarantees are getting opened through YONO. So this is the kind of a value accretion. It has become a new distribution channel by itself. It is no more an app. It is actually a distribution channel which is formidable. So this is actually the power of the digitization, and this is nothing but when we try to find solutions to the problem, we have achieved it. Happy to share that it was only the digitization which led to a situation where on the day when the COVID lockdown was declared, there was a dire need to ensure that people should get money in their hands, and that is something which was done. And the net result of that is that in the financial year 24, 68 crore DBT transactions could be affected only by simply by a click of button. So that is the power of the technology which we have already experienced. So when it comes to how to fund this kind of a VC ecosystem, of course we have seen that when it comes to countries like US and China, they are the one where the VC system has got a benefit of getting it funded from the domestic capital. But here in case of India, we are actually reliant to a greater extent on the overseas capital for funding the VC ecosystem. I think there is a huge opportunity, and more so it has to be seen in the context that when it comes to the ultra high net worth individuals and high net worth individuals, the population is actually growing, and it is coming to a stage where we can actually start thinking in terms of channelizing the domestic capital, because when it comes to HNI, ultra HNIs and the family offices, which have actually grown in number significantly, now it is, as far as the family offices are concerned, almost about 300 odd family offices are there. And with those 300 family offices, there could be they have got an appetite for taking risk, and they have got their risk capital available. So there's a need to channelize this kind of a organized system for funding the VCs. And of course, we have seen that AIF has actually gained space. Almost about 11 trillion worth of AIF is already there in the ecosystem in the country. When the mutual fund is being talked about at about 66 trillion, insurance money is being talked about at 74 trillion. 11 trillion of the money into AIF is actually a very, very remarkable number, considering the fact that in terms of age, this is the most recent vehicle which has been introduced for channelizing the savings and for deploying it into the VC space or to the private market space. There is a need for bringing in some kind of a regulatory to revisit the regulatory framework, because we are all aware that when it comes to the patient money, as far as the organized setup is concerned, it comes in from the pension or it comes from the life insurance sector, but at the same time, they have a requirement of ensuring certainty of the returns, and that is the reason why perhaps when their investment is there, it is all into AAA kind of entities. Their risk appetite is quite low, and only a couple of years back, when Reserve Bank of India started permitting the banks to have some kind of a private market investment, that was one channel which got opened up. But I believe that, to my mind, when it comes to the risk appetite and also the kind of patient's capital which is available, family offices, to my mind, are one of the best. And also, this is one side of the story, but when it comes to consuming the services of the VCs, I think we have already seen the ecosystem has got strengthened. Reserve Bank of India has also come out with the ecosystem for encouraging the startups to come, and the sandbox technology which they have encouraged. I believe the other regulators have also picked up the clue out of that, and we have started seeing that even in the insurance sector also, the regulators are encouraging the sandbox ecosystem, which eventually will go a long way in terms of providing an enabling situation for various startups. So when it comes to the role of the leadership uh, driving the disruption. I think this is one of the very, very important component. And when I talked about the confidence and the connection on the part of the VC entrepreneur, this is something which is very, very material. So I think there is a need to have an equal mind in pain and pleasure. So that is something which I believe is something which will probably help in terms of shaping the thought process for various VCs. Even in State Bank of India, when we engage with large number of startups for seeking solutions to our various problem statements, we always try and evaluate the startup on these parameters. That how are they looking at, because success and failure is very much a very integral part for any startup. So with that in mind, we actually evaluate such promoters on those terms. As far as IvyCap is concerned, our investment in IvyCap Venture is part of our broader strategy to support the growth of the startup and foster innovation in the country. We are LPs, but of late we started doing some kind of a co-investments also. Wherever we could find that the entity can offer solutions to our problem statements, we were more than happy to evaluate them in terms of their ability to offer the solution ASAP. So we have already seen some of the entities which I very fondly recollect having engaged with: Purple, Clovia. So these are the one, and Biryani by Kilo. In fact, in Biryani by Kilo, we even went for the co-investment too. So this is something which we have started doing off late. But yes, of course, even our experience has been, in fact, we put our investment experience into VC space into about 3 buckets. And in the first bucket, we only lost the money. The second bucket, we started learning the ropes. And actually in the third bucket, we have started seeing much better results. So I think this is perhaps the journey. But yes, of course, we have charted this journey. Not that everybody should chart this journey. But yes, of course, to my mind, there is a huge opportunity which exists in the country. And it has to be seen in the context today when we talk about our domestic problems and we are trying to find solutions to those problems with the help of such ventures. Today, when it comes to defense and the kind of focus which is there on the defense now and the defense industry, there is a huge opportunity which exists in this particular space. And I think, considering the criticality, perhaps we will have to probably dwell much more into this subject, and we need to encourage the startups who are offering solutions to this. So I think, to really sum up, I would like to say that before the first ascent of Mount Everest, there were 14-15 expeditions to scale the top. Some of them led to the death, notably when Andrew Irwin and George Mallory disappeared. But people still dared to dream and ultimately succeeded too. So I think this is something which keeps the hopes and ambitions high. We have to eventually solve for a much bigger problem, and that is, we are already in the top 5 as a nation. We have to become one among the top 3, and not merely one among the top 3, but even in terms of per capita income, we have significant improvement to achieve, from about $2,800 to somewhere around $15,000. Can it happen in our generation? Perhaps we have to have a confidence we can make it happen. Thank you very much. All the very best.